Hey, what's up, guys? It's the Metal Queen from Metal Up Your Weight Loss, and today is Transformation Tuesday. What better way to jam out on Transformation Tuesday than to share my transformation? So here I am coming at you. I got my Skull coffee mug with my black coffee like my soul. So let's get with it. I'll tell you about my weight gain and my weight loss. So starting back to when I was a kid, I was never overweight. I was always small. And it was around 2002 when I was 17 and I had gotten pregnant with my first child. I was a sophomore in high school, and obviously it was not the time to get pregnant in any sense of the word. It was really stressful. A lot of people really hated hard on me for it. Family, friends. I even got a lot of comments and or looks from teachers at school. It was hard. And being 17 and being in the circumstances I obviously did not handle it well. And my coping mechanism was overeating. So I started putting on weight. I think I was around 125 when I got pregnant. By the end of the pregnancy, I was 195. So that's what started it. After that, a lot of things just didn't go well in life in general. A lot of poor choices on my part, and along the way, a lot of weight gain due to the poor choices and the stress and me not managing it and it just going out of control. Around 2006, I had my second child. I was 21. I had gained another 30 pounds after having her. Around 2009, I had left a job that I was at for quite some time and left, and the stress of that, I gained another 15 pounds. That's when I decided to enroll in college. I never planned on going to college. I did not think I even could handle being in college. I didn't think I was smart enough, but I did it. I did it for a lot of weird reasons. At the time, I was living with my mom's then husband in one of the townhouses he owned. And I knew that having quit my job, if I didn't do something else, it was going to be bad. Because I was staying there for free at the time, and I left my job. So seeing that I wasn't doing anything at all would have just set off a whole shitload of issues. So I thought, okay, I'm going to get into school, prove to them I can't handle doing it, and then they at least can't blame me for not trying. That was the mindset I had going into it, which was shitty. So I enrolled in college, but rather than sucking at it, I actually did really well and liked it. And so it took me a lot longer than the 2 years it was supposed to take for me to graduate because life, or I should say me, got in the way by making a lot of stupid ass choices along the way. And a lot of moves. I moved from Indiana to Michigan to Indiana. I was all over the place. I couldn't get stable. I was in a bad relationship. It was just kind of everything and everything in between going wrong, and it would pull me off of my schoolwork. There was a lot of times I was in and out of classes. I always went back to it, never completely gave it up, but it just took me probably 5 years to get a 2-year degree. It's terrible. I started in 2009 and I graduated in 2014 with my associate degree in human services management. So going back to the time I moved to Michigan, that was around 2010, and I was already 265 pounds by that point. Still miserable, still making shitty choices, still in and out of college classes, moved around quite a few times even once I got to Michigan. Started off in the Lansing area, moved to the Rochester Hills and Auburn Hills area, if anyone's familiar with that. I was in and out of work and just fucking up in general with everything. It really sucked. And off and on throughout all the years from 2002 all the way to where I'm talking about, I, tried many different times to lose weight, lots of different things, and none of them worked because of me. I really think that despite how much I promote specifically what I do, I don't think it's the only way to go. I want to make that clear. It worked really well for me. It still continues to work really well for me. However, I really think that any diet can work, but only if you do the most crucial point, and I stress this all the time to everyone, and no one likes to hear it. They just want to know, what do you eat? Tell me what you eat. What do you eat? What do you eat? And that's great. I can tell you all day damn long what the fuck I eat. What I eat, it's awesome. I promote it all day long. I really believe in it. However, I could have chose anything and lost the weight. But what changed the time I lost the weight, and I really believe is the number one factor, was my mindset. That's something I never even thought about in the past attempts at losing weight. I just thought, I just got to pick a diet and rock it. And it never worked because I was never in the mind frame to really stick with it. I had a lot of excuses. I'm sure the same excuses a lot of you have. And I just couldn't stick with it. I really couldn't. And the time that it worked, I think it was a combination of a lot of things, honestly. I mean, I think it was the diet I chose. It was definitely huge, the mindset work that I did. I did a ton of personal development on myself, on my inner game. I watched all kinds of material with big names like Tony Robbins, he's my favorite, John Assaraf, Jack Canfield, Bob Proctor. You can look any of those guys up. They got a lot of material online. They have books. They have a lot of free things. They do a lot of paid events. But I really got into it, and I really truly think that it was the number one hands down factor of why I succeeded. It wasn't the diet. I mean, the diet is awesome, but like I said, I could have chosen probably anything, and so long as I did the inner game, I probably could have succeeded. Now, saying that, I don't think all diets are equal. They all can work, and it really I think it depends on what you want from them. For me, I'm impatient, so I wanted something that was going to work fast. I wanted something that was going to, be a healthy choice too, not just weight loss. I wanted something that was realistic for me. And I had to really look at what I was about and what realistic for me meant. And for me, I knew that I was not going to stick to any kind of bullshit where I had to weigh a bunch of shit all the time, measure a bunch of shit all the time, anything I had to count calories, count points, go to meetings, anything I had to buy some crazy prepackaged bullshit that was expensive as all fuck, or any kind of shakes. Because realistically, for one, I personally, and maybe you're different, I'm not going to sit there and count shit and weigh shit and measure shit and constantly have to monitor my bullshit and have all these special rules of when I can eat and when I can't eat and how much can I eat and how much of this and how much of that, and counting these stupid fucking points and going to meetings and buying like things that I absolutely cannot afford, and even if I could, I wouldn't want to. It just didn't seem realistic for me personally to stick with anything like that. So I knew that anything like that was a waste of my time, because I was probably only going to do it for a week or two or whatever the fuck, and then just be like, fuck this shit. So what I did is I researched the hell out of things online, and I was looking for certain key points. I wanted something that was simple, something that was affordable, something that would realistically fit into my lifestyle and what I could see myself doing, and something that was healthy. Because when I finally made the change, or I should say when I finally made the shift in my head, like I have absolutely have to lose the weight, like I just knew that it had to be something legit as hell this time. And in past, I always wanted to lose the weight, or at least I really thought I did. I did, but I think I was in a mode of being interested rather than committed. And I talk about interested and committed in my premiere episode of The Brutal Truth. But to go a little deeper into that concept, I mean, I was always unhappy once I gained the weight. I never was in a place where I was okay with it, or I accepted it, or it was just how things were. I was miserable. Like I said, I was never big growing up, so I didn't feel like I was me. I really felt like I was two different people. I was the me on the inside, and then I was this outer version, which I really didn't even consider me, even though I guess it was in a fucked up kind of way, but it was. But I didn't feel like those two separate people, the way I seen them, could coexist. Like, to me, the real me was completely suppressed and hidden beneath the outside me. And it really fucked me up, like hardcore. I couldn't get over it. The more time went on that I was overweight, and the more overweight I got, the more miserable I got, the more stressed out, the more depressed, the more self-conscious, the more I loathed myself, hated myself, the more it just fucking sucked. And I lost, like, pretty much all motivation and drive in all areas of life. Like, I just couldn't get it together. I just couldn't function in any kind of normal way as a person, as an adult, as a parent, as anything, with me being like that, because I didn't feel like I was me. Maybe you guys are in the same situation. I don't know. That was me, though. I just couldn't take it at all. I felt completely imprisoned and taken over by the person that was the outside representation of me. So it sucked, and most of the time I spent laying in my bed damn near 24/7, just feeling like a piece of shit, feeling like I couldn't live my life in any kind of way because of how tore up and upset and bothered by my weight that I was. And it was in 2013 I had gotten pregnant with my third child. At the time, I was a single mom. I already had the two I mentioned before, and I was struggling to make it. I was living in Michigan at the time, and I'm not from there, so I had no family, I had no friends. I was just going it alone. The guy I was with that I got pregnant by had left and went to Texas, so I was doing this on my own. At the time, I didn't even know I was pregnant. I was still having regular periods. I thought I was all good. Well, actually, okay, let me back up. I knew I was pregnant. I thought I miscarried because I started having regular periods. So I never went and got checked like I should. I just assumed I had lost the child. Also, side note, that was not the first miscarriage I had, even though it ended up not being a miscarriage. I had two real miscarriages back in 2005. One was really serious. It required a surgery called a DNC, where I was hemorrhaging so bad they couldn't stop the hemorrhaging, and they had to rush me to the OR, put me under, and do this procedure to stop the hemorrhaging so I did not die. So yeah, that was a fun time. But fast forwarding back to 2013, I got pregnant, and after I did, the dad left. I was on my own in Michigan, single mom with two kids, no job, no source of income, and I was freaking the fuck out. And I thought I had miscarried the baby, so at least, even though miscarriage would suck, it was a relief in the sense that I thought there was no way I could handle going through another child or pregnancy or anything else all by myself. So I had gotten my shit together after a couple weeks of laying there feeling sorry for myself and crying. I got a job, and things started to look up, and I was doing pretty good, managing the household, taking care of the kids, doing my own thing. It was the first time in my whole life I had been on my own. And so 5 months down the road from that point, I started feeling not myself. I knew something wasn't right. I was feeling like movements in my stomach, and I kind of wrote it off because it wasn't an all the time thing initially. It was, sporadic here and there, and I was feeling things, and I kind of thought I just had gas, major. And so I was kind of like, okay, whatever. But then it kept happening, and it was more and more frequent, and it got more and more strong. And I was like, dude, some shit ain't right here. I know this feeling. I've felt this before. So I went and gotten checked, and sure enough, I was pregnant. It was insane to me because I didn't understand. I had been pregnant before and never had periods, and I was always sick as hell with my other 2 pregnancies. This one I wasn't. I felt completely normal until I started feeling, the movements. So I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And to make it all the more stressful and worse, the same day I found out I was pregnant, I also found out that the baby had multiple congenital heart defects. And it was pretty severe. They gave him, I want to say it was like a 25% or less chance of living once he was born. So I ended up having to go for all of my appointments during the pregnancy at a high-risk clinic. They wanted to constantly monitor the baby because of the severity of his heart conditions. So it got to the point where I was having to be monitored so much, and I was under so much stress and everything else that was going on, that I had quit my job. And I had no choice but to get government assistance and everything else, just so I could keep going, just so I could take care of the 2 kids I had and support the household, because I was on my own. It was just me. So the time came in September when I was ready to give birth. The birth plan was to have him in the city, which was about a 45-minute commute from where I was living. So I went to Detroit, the children's hospital, well, the women's hospital, which was connected to the children's hospital. They wanted me there because they knew he was going to need urgent special care right after his birth at the children's hospital. So Hutzel's Women's Hospital in Detroit is where I had him, which is connected through a tunnel system to the Detroit's Children's Hospital. So I had the baby, and 6 days after he was born, he had his first open heart surgery. 6 months, when he was 6 months old, he had his second open heart surgery. So I remember really clearly, after I had him, I decided I needed to get back in school because I still hadn't finished my associate degree, and everyone kind of thought I was nuts. What are you doing? You're going through all this stuff. How can you focus on college right now? And I thought, I have to. Life is already so hard. It is already so bad. I am alone. I am freaking out. I need something to keep my mind focused on something else other than, the insanity and the stress and the hard times I was going through. And I wanted my degree, and I thought, this is the time I need to be focused on making things better for myself, because I don't know what the future holds. I don't know if my son's going to live, going to die, what I might have to face, but I know I have to put myself in the best position I can no matter what happens. So I re-enrolled back in classes. I remember sitting there in the hospital with my laptop after his second open heart surgery, and after that surgery he couldn't stabilize. They had to leave him on a bypass machine, and they left him with his chest open. It was about a week, and they had all these tubes and a machine hooked up to him that would pump the blood for his heart. His heart was too weak, and he couldn't even come off of sedation. Anytime they tried to ease the sedation up or take it off, all of his stats would go off the chart. So I remember how stressful and hard it was, and I remember pushing myself through it. So when he was 8 months old, they finally had him to a place where he was stable enough that they thought he could go home for the first time. So at the time, he was on a feeding pump that was inserted through his stomach. I had to learn how to care for that, put it in, take it out, clean it. It was connected to an IV pole with a feeding pump. He had a whole sheet of medications. He had heart monitors. He had an oxygen tank. He needed round-the-clock care and supervision. So I was terrified. I was excited and happy that he would get to experience life not in the hospital, but I was terrified because I had never been in a situation to care for someone with that kind of condition all by myself. Up until that point, he was in the hospital, and that it was the nurses and the doctors, and I had to learn CPR, and I had to learn all these medications and all the things to look for and signs and symptoms, and it was so much. And me knowing I was bringing him home to do this all on my own, plus I still had the 2 other kids that were depending on me, I was terrified. I was so terrified. So he came home, and I had a nurse that would come to the house once a week for maybe 30 minutes to an hour just to make sure he was okay, I was okay, and take down his weight and his vitals and just all these really little things. But most of it was all on me. I don't even think I slept for 2 months, barely. I mean, it was a tiny bit here and it was a tiny bit there, because between him constantly needing special feeding and medications and the monitors and all the stuff I had to record and track, and me just being paranoid and terrified of taking my eyes off of him because something would happen, I barely slept. And one night, it was about 2 months after he came home, or let me back up. So a month after he came home, I graduated. I graduated from college. Even with everything I had going on to this day, I can't tell you how I did it. I don't know how I pushed myself through that, but I did. So I graduated, and he was home for me to do that. And then it was about a month after that, in July, and it was one night I noticed that he was really swollen, and being swollen for him was pretty typical, because with his heart being the way it was, his body couldn't easily pump the fluid off of him, and he was on medication for it. He was taking Lasix, but despite that, he would still from time to time look a little puffy and swollen. But this in particular night, it was different. I could tell that it was far more so than his normal swelling. So I kind of watched him for an hour or two and monitored him, but I just knew something was not good. It was not right. So around midnight, I grabbed him up, strapped him into the car, drove 45 minutes to the Detroit Children's Hospital, and admitted him. And no sooner than we got there, he seizured out. All of his stats went crazy. They had to right away put him on a ventilator and sedate him, and it was crazy. Had I not taken action when I did and raced up there, I think I would have lost him right there at home. So we spent the next week there in the hospital with him sedated and going back and forth to the cath lab, going through all kinds of different procedures and exploratory things to try to figure out what happened, what was going on, and what, if anything, they could do to help him. Well, after about a week of tests and procedures with nothing working, they came into the room and basically told me that there was really nothing they could do for him at that point, and I could either choose to leave him sedated because he couldn't quit seizuring and he couldn't function out of sedation, or I could choose to take him off of life support, because they really believed that even if he overcame that specific episode, that he was never going to have any kind of quality of life that would be worth living. And so I had to make the choice. And to take him off of life support. So the very next day, they scheduled that to happen. I'm sorry, guys. And, they unhooked him from all the different IVs and the ventilator. And they put a pillow on my lap. And I held him. And about an hour later, he took his last breath. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Oh. So that happened, and we had his funeral, and I had him cremated so I could keep his ashes with me. And so I knew I had to pull it together, even after all of that, because I still have my other 2 kids at home that were depending on me. Oh, God. I'm sorry, guys. Give me a second here. I need to power up the coffee right now. Oh, God. And, so, a month after his passing, I went back to work because I had no choice. I had a house to support. I had 2 kids that were depending on me. So I went back to work. I still was 260 crazy pounds, still miserable, still unhappy. The only thing I was happy and proud of was that I had finally finished my degree. But I was pretty broken at the time from everything. And it was in November. And I remember laying in my room, feeling like shit, like I always did. And I just had this thought, and it came out of nowhere, that I was about to be 30 in about 3 months in February. And I just freaked out. I freaked out because I had lost my dad in 2011, as well as my grandma back when I was 18, and those were my people, my 2 people. I was super close to them, especially my dad. Growing up, I was a big-time daddy's girl. And honestly, I think I kind of want to back the story up a little bit because I was really close to my dad growing up, and he was a metalhead, big time. And so I really looked up to him, and I was really big into metal. It was kind of like, you could imagine having a pastor as a dad. That's what it was like in my house, but he was a metal pastor. So he was all about it. He called himself the metal master, and he was a big vinyl record collector, had a collection of about 2,000 vinyl records, and he had a poster that he had hung up ever since I can remember, like at least as young as 5 years old, maybe younger. There was a poster of this metal chick. Actually, let me show you. I have the poster. Let me show you the poster. So this, hold on. Well, shit. This, if you could see it, was the poster. The exact poster that he had hanging up. And I remember seeing that as young as I can remember. And I remember thinking it was just the coolest fucking thing ever. And I thought, that's how I see myself. That's me. From a very young age, that was always my vision for who I thought I was, how I was supposed to be. And I remember saying to my dad as a little girl, when I grow up, I'm going to be just like her. I'm going to be a metal chick when I grow up. And I mean, I meant it. It wasn't one of them silly little offhand remarks from a little kid. I really felt like that was who I was supposed to, or how I was supposed to be. That's how I envisioned myself. And obviously along the way, shit happened and all the weight gain. And I really thought for a very long time that I lost all hope of ever being that way, which was why I was so miserable, because I didn't feel like I could be that in that body. That was just not an option for me. So fast forwarding back to, or backing up a little more, maybe 2009, around the time I told you I had signed up for college. At that time I started getting, and this is going to get a little weird, I'm just going to tell you guys right now, this is going to get weird. I've always had a strong connection with what I call the universe. You could call it the universe, call it source, you could call it God. I call it the universe. I've always been really strongly connected with it. I've always received messages. It's not like I hear voices or anything weird, but I just get information, and I'm able to communicate with the universe. And it's never proven to be wrong. Every time I've ever gotten information, it's always been right. However, in 2009, I got a message that I did not know how to deal with because it just seemed so absurd. The message was that I was supposed to help people lose weight. Now, imagine this shit. Here I was, 265 pounds, failing at life, weight loss, and everything else. How the fuck was my fat ass supposed to help anyone else lose weight if I couldn't even do it for my damn self? It just seemed ridiculous to me. Completely and totally, utterly ridiculous. So I kind of blew it off, never forgot it, but blew it off, and that's when I enrolled in college. Fast forward, sorry for the sidetrack, but I just feel like I want to put all this info in there. So it was 2013, I was about to be 30. I had a total complete breakdown because I knew my dad started developing all of his health problems when he was in his 30s. And here I was, maybe 3 months or so from being 30. So I really thought and worked myself up into like a full-blown frenzy that if I didn't change something and I kept going how I was going, that was going to be my reality over the next couple years. And my dad was diabetic and had a lot of health problems with his heart. And he had died from a massive heart attack, having had 2 prior to the one that he died from. And his health in general just really went downhill kind of quick. And I mean, especially towards the end. And I remember how hard that was, seeing him go through that for me and for him, you know, having it break him down like it did. And I didn't want any part of that. As hard and bad as it was seeing him go through it, I could only imagine what it would be like to personally go through it. And, you know, life was hard enough. Things were stressful enough. I thought, if I fuck around and develop these health problems, shit's gonna go way worse than it already is. I mean, what am I gonna do if I'm falling apart physically? So basically, between desperately wanting to live life the way I've always envisioned it and being totally terrified of developing these health problems, I got super serious, like more so than I ever had. And especially with what I had already went through, losing my son and just all the things, the miscarriages, the being on my own, just everything life had dealt me. At that point, I just couldn't take it anymore. Absolutely was just over feeling like shit, and I didn't want to anymore. Not that I ever did, but I went from being interested to being committed. Before, I wanted to lose the weight desperately, but at the same time, I don't think I was ready to really do what it took. Yeah, I wanted to lose the weight. Yeah, I wanted to live the vision I seen for myself. Yes, all those things were very true. But I didn't want to have to give up all the foods I was used to eating. I didn't want to have to make the changes. I just had a really poor, fucked up mindset around the whole thing. So I was always failing. This time I was really determined that no more bullshit, no more excuses. It didn't matter if anyone was going to do it with me. It didn't matter if anyone supported me. It didn't matter how much money I had. It didn't matter how much time I had. It didn't matter if I was all on my own. It didn't matter. It just didn't matter. It didn't fucking matter to me anymore. I was over fucking up and failing, and I was ready to finally do something good for myself. So I scoured the internet looking for a way of going about losing weight that I really felt I could stick to and was going to work for me, not just for a month, not just for a year, not just to get the weight off, but something I really truly believed I could do for fucking ever, because I knew if I didn't, I would be right back to where I was the moment I gave it up. So I started researching, and I came across what I personally almost immediately believed in. There was really no question in my mind. I was sold. It just made logic sense to me. I'm not going to go into what that is here, even though I'm sure you guys really want to know. But I have a program I developed where I go into extensive detail about the lifestyle diet that I chose. But I found that. And another thing I found was everyone that I had read testimonies on that had done it kept going on and on and on about the importance of mindset. And I was like, what the fuck's up with this mindset situation? So I really, after reading it and seeing it so many times, is everyone claiming it was like the number one component to them being successful, I thought, all right, I gotta look into this shit. And there were several different names that kept coming up from everyone that they really recommended. And one of those was Tony Robbins, my favorite. At the time, I didn't know who he was. I hadn't heard any of his material. But I started checking it out, and it just changed everything. I listened to that, and at the same time continued to research the diet. I wanted to know everything, the ins and outs, every last little detail, because I was taking it serious as fuck. So I wanted to know all there was to know. I wanted to know how you metabolized foods, what caused weight gain, what caused sustainable weight loss, how the body handled what you put in it. Every little thing. I went over the deep end. I went into the rabbit hole with it. It was an obsession, but a good one, a good obsession. So I was heavy deep into personal development. I was heavy deep into researching this diet, and I kind of got to a point where I was like, all right, dog, you got to start taking action. I mean, it's awesome that you researched it, and that's important that you research it, and it's awesome that you're doing all this inner work and getting into a better frame of mind. But none of that's going to help you unless you start putting all of these things into practice. So finally, maybe a month or so into me being like obsessed with all of it, I just decided one night, I want to say it was like maybe a Thursday, that after that weekend, that's it. No more fucking around. We're going 100% into this new way of eating. I didn't want to ease in. I didn't want to slowly cut things down, cut things out. Because one, I was way too impatient. Two, I suck ass at moderating anything. I'm an extremist, so I'm like an all or nothing kind of chick. I'm either gonna be like 100 in and taking something like to that extreme, or I'm going to be 100 out and taking it to the other extreme. There's really no middle ground for me, and so I just knew I had to go completely in. So I did that. After that weekend, I went 100% in. It was November 17th of 2014 was the first day I started. And I never looked back. I just rolled with it. I rocked with it. It's not to say it was easy. It wasn't easy. It was actually hard as fuck. Not because I was eating things I didn't like. I actually really liked everything I was eating. But what was hard was there was still the almost 30 years worth of old habits and programming and things in my head. I was used to eating a certain way, so I was craving it, dude. It was like hardcore, like sugar cravings, especially because like I was one of them people that I always have my sweets, my desserts, and so even though I loved what I was eating, I still was craving some of the other bullshit. So I want to say like the first month and a half, maybe 2 months max, is when it was hard. But I went into it knowing, okay, dog, this is going to suck at first. Not because you don't like what you're planning to eat, but because you're trying to break old patterns and eating habits that are 30 years deep, dude. Like, if you go into it thinking it's not going to be hard or it's not going to be challenging, you're stupid as fuck and you're kidding yourself. So I went into it with a mind frame of knowing and being prepared for the fact that it was going to suck balls, and it did. I remember crying some nights, screaming, throwing shit, being in a shit ass, piss ass mood. Sometimes I would have to take my ass just to sleep, just to not think about it and not to give in to cravings. But no matter what, I didn't give up, and I never broke down and gave in. And along the way, I still was heavily watching and listening to all the personal development shit, because it was keeping me relatively level-headed. I mean, like I said, I had my moments where I was like, oh, I can't do this shit, fuck this. But I would recenter myself, and like, that's how I did it. I would listen to all of that and keep my mind focused on positive things, and I would learn tips and tricks and strategies and tactics and all kinds of different things to be able to accomplish goals in life. And it really made the difference, and it got me over that initial hump, that first month or two where it was really, really, really fucking hard. So it was about 10 months altogether from the time I started until I got down to where I wanted to be. And I never exercised, never once. Not that I'm knocking it. I think exercise is awesome and important, and I probably should have done it. I probably should do it now, and I still don't do it. But I mean, honestly, I feel like exercise is great for your overall health, for your muscles, for your body, but it's not really, to me, okay, this is just my personal opinion here, it's not really that helpful when you lose weight. I mean, it can be, but here's the thing with it. If your eating isn't where it's supposed to be, you can go to the gym or however you want to work out, at home, outside, whatever the fuck. You can work your ass off and kill it. And if you go home and eat some bullshit or whatever the fuck, you're going to negate most, if not any, progress you're going to make, or it's going to go slow as all hell. So yeah, exercise can help. And maybe even make it go faster, although to me, 10 months to lose 160 pounds ain't that damn bad. I was averaging like 15 to 20 pounds loss every month until I got really close to my goal, and it slowed down a little because I didn't have as much to lose. But still, I never worked out during any of it and was still continually losing 15, 20 pounds every month, and I wasn't even working. I was laying on my fat ass being a lazy piece of shit, and all I was doing was being 100% on my eating. I did not have cheat meals. I did not have cheat days. It didn't matter if it was a holiday. It didn't matter if it was my birthday. It didn't matter if it was Taco Tuesday. It didn't matter. I was not taking any I was not fucking up. I was on this shit 100% hardcore style, because I knew, for one, if I were to eat that shit, I would just set my cravings off all over again and probably fall off the wagon. Two, I was impatient as fuck, and I really wanted the weight off like yesterday, so I didn't want to play around and slow that process down. And I really picked a hell of a time to start, because I started just before, like maybe 2 weeks or something before Thanksgiving. But guess what, you guys, dude, I did not indulge in even a single solitary fucked up item on Thanksgiving. I ate only what was on my new way of eating, nothing else, even though I was surrounded by this like smorgasbord of awesomeness, and I was brand new at this. This wasn't even when I had built up all the reserves I needed. It wasn't when I was in it for years and it was no big deal. This was like I had barely been on it a week or so, and here comes Thanksgiving and my ass stuck to plan. And then a month later, Christmas, another huge ass meal, and again I stuck to plan 100%. I did not have one Christmas cookie. I did not have one piece of chocolate. I stayed 100% on what I had set for myself. Was it hard? Yes, it was that year, because I was brand new. But as soon as the meal was over, right away it was like I just felt so proud of myself and so accomplished, and it really wasn't even that big of a damn deal, to be honest. I mean, it kind of sucked a little bit, like in the heat of the moment when everyone was eating everything and I was just eating like specific certain things, which was like a tiny percent of all the food there. But I looked at the bigger picture with the whole thing. First of all, I thought, dude, I have had my fair share of gorging out to the next new level year after year after year on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Like, it doesn't need to be happening anymore. Like, it's not serving me. It's not going to get me where I want to go. So fuck it. And I just, I would look at it like that, and I was able to get through it. And like I said, it was about 10 months altogether for me to lose the weight. And initially, my goal I set for myself was 125. Even then I thought there's no fucking way I could ever get down that low. It just seemed like the biggest number on the planet. How the fuck can I do it? I don't see it being possible. Maybe some people could. That's awesome for them. I don't think I could. I mean, even though I listened to a lot of the positive stuff, I still was in a very limiting mind frame. I mean, I had a lot of hope. I was very determined and ready. At the same time, it still felt pretty overwhelming and unrealistic. I mean, those feelings faded the longer I went through it and the more progress I made. But it was definitely one of those things that it took me a while to really start thinking, dude, I think I can really do this. Like, I'm continually losing weight. I'm over the hump of it sucking and being hard. And now it's just a matter of time of continuing to do this and, being able to get to where I want to go with it. And I ended up not only hitting the 125 goal, but passing it by quite a bit and getting all the way down to 110. And I didn't even do it on purpose, but I just, continued to eat the way I was eating, and my body just decided that was its settling point. Like, it automatically just quit releasing weight on its own when it got to where it didn't have any excess weight to lose. So, I mean, and at this point it's just maintenance, and it's not hard. It's not a struggle. I love it. I enjoy it. I don't have the cravings anymore. And like I said, that hard struggle craving part, honestly, guys, dude, like, it only lasted maybe the first month or two max. So if you could get past a month of your life where it does suck and find ways to get past it and just know that this is a temporary shitty ass time, and as long as you don't give in to things and have to restart the craving center of your brain, you can get through it, you can get over it, and it doesn't stay hard forever. It does not stay hard forever. It is not hard for me now. Granted, I'm almost it'll be 5 years this November, 5 years that I'm into this, but it stopped being hard in the very beginning. So, I mean, I'm just saying, this can be done. This can be done. I'm not any different than anyone else. I'm not special. I didn't have some special thing. I just dedicated myself. I committed myself to it. I quit being interested. I quit making up all the excuses that I had held on to. I did my research, and I took it seriously, and I ran with it, and I didn't let anyone or anything take me off my game. People would talk shit all the time. You can't eat like that forever. That's not healthy. You need to eat this and you need to eat that. Fuck that. I knew what I was doing. I knew what I had researched. I knew it was working, it was healthy, and it was good. I didn't give a flying fuck what anyone else had to say. Oh, why can't you just eat a little bit of this? What's the big deal? It's just a little. What's the big deal, dude? The big deal is I have a goal. I have a serious goal that I'm not fucking around with, and I want to lose this weight. I don't want to waste time giving into those old habits, those old cravings, because it's just going to throw me off my game. Yeah, okay, one stupid little piece of this or that isn't going to really make a difference in and of itself, but if it throws you into craving everything again and fucks with your head, then it can potentially throw you off of all your shit, because that one time turns into 2 times, turns into 3 times, turns into I'm not doing this diet anymore, I give up. And I didn't want that to be me, so I just knew for me personally, and maybe you're different, maybe you could handle eating a little bit of this and that sometimes, having cheat meals, cheat days, and if you can, rock on, dude, because I can't, and I've tried it even over the years, I've tried, and it just doesn't work for me. I'm an extremist. I'm an all or nothing. Like, I'm either going to eat something to the core and fuck my life up, or I'm not going to fuck with it at all, ever, no matter what, period. And so, me knowing that about me, I have to stick to super strict mode all the time, which I'm cool with because, like I said, I like how I eat. I'm not eating anything I don't like. I'm not miserable. I don't feel like I'm restraining myself. I don't feel like I'm restricting myself. I don't feel like I'm starving. I don't feel like I'm missing out on things. I mean, I really don't. And that helps. And I think that's an important point. You have to pick something that you enjoy what you eat. If you're picking shit you don't like and you're trying to force yourself to eat it, I don't know, man. Maybe you could stick with it. I don't think I could, nor would I want to. But because I really love and did, even from the get-go, love everything I was eating, it really wasn't hard. It wasn't bad. And I rock with it. Now it's just how it is. It's how I live. I don't think about it. It's not hard. I don't struggle. It's just how life is. And I still listen to all my personal development, not because I need to stay on track, but because it's just good. It's a good thing for me to do. For me personally, I enjoy it. I love keeping all of those ideas and concepts fresh in my mind. And now it's not really listening to it in regard to staying on track with my weight, because I got that pretty down. But I mean, just in life in general, in terms of where I'm going and what I want to do, it helps keep me positive and on track. So backing up a little bit, after I lost my weight, I started remembering those lovely little messages from 2009 that I'm supposed to be helping people lose weight. That's my path. That's my purpose. Now the message made a whole hell of a lot more sense and had a lot more credence, because now I actually had accomplished it. So I decided to go on and get a certification as a lifestyle and weight management specialist. That way I had more than just my story, more than just my research, more than just my experience. I had a credential behind my name. And I wrote a program, METALUP Your Weight Loss. And I've written a book which covers my autobiographical journey, which is pretty much what I told you, but it's better laid out and more detailed than this video. But I wrote the book, wrote the program, and where I'm aiming to go now is I want to do public speaking events. I want to share my story, and I want to work with people one-on-one who are struggling like I struggled for so long. And so that's where I'm at now. That's what I'm working on, and I still eat on point 100%. I still listen to all my personal development, and I am working every day towards this new venture. It's really not new. I've actually been working on it off and on for a couple years now, but it's been getting a lot more traction with it as of late. So that's really all I have to say on that story, guys. I thought I just wanted to come in and share that because a lot of people don't know the whole story. And so I'm going to leave you with that. I'm the Metal Queen from Metal Up Your Weight Loss. And remember, when it comes to weight loss, don't bitch out. Metal up.